In the quiet suburbs of a growing town, the summer of 2005 was supposed to be filled with laughter and the innocent joys of childhood. The Harper family home was a modest, newly built house on the edge of a small development where the hum of construction still lingered in the air. To anyone passing by, it was just another ordinary neighborhood. Trees lining the streets, kids playing in yards, and neighbors waving hello. But for the Harpers, that summer would become the darkest chapter of their lives. Emma and Michael Harper, now parents of 3-year-old triplets, Aiden, Brooke, and Caleb, were busy with the final touches of their home's expansion. The triplets, identical in age but distinct in personality, were inseparable, always playing together, their bond unbreakable. The children's initials, ABC, were stitched on their tiny clothes, a detail the parents cherished as a symbol of their uniqueness despite their shared age. That particular afternoon, the triplets decided to play a game of hide-and-seek outside, near the half-finished extension at the back of the house. The construction site was a mixture of dirt piles, wooden beams, and scattered tools, a risky playground, but one the children knew well. The contractor, Mr. Collins, had promised to finish the extension soon, but delays had pushed the timeline well beyond schedule. Emma watched from the kitchen window as the children giggled and darted around the yard. The sun was warm, and a gentle breeze rustled the newly planted shrubs. "Be careful," she called softly, half to the kids and half to herself, the anxiety in her voice barely noticeable. But the children were too caught up in their game to listen. Michael was upstairs, sorting through paperwork related to his job, unaware of the moment that was about to change everything. "Aiden's going to count to 20, Brooke announced with excitement. The triplets giggled as they scattered, each searching for the perfect hiding spot. Aiden closed his eyes, shielding them with his small hands, and began counting loudly. 1, 2, 3. His voice echoed faintly across the yard. Brooke ducked behind a pile of wooden planks leaning against the half-built wall. Caleb squeezed into a narrow gap between the wall and the fence, his small frame almost invisible. Aiden finished counting and shouted, "Ready or not, here I come!" Minutes passed. Emma's smile faded as she noticed the children weren't coming back. She stepped outside, calling their names, her voice growing louder with each attempt. "Aiden! Brooke! Caleb!" The backyard felt suddenly empty, as if the laughter had been swallowed by the unfinished walls. Michael joined her, sensing the urgency. "Where could they have gone?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. The contractor, Mr. Collins, arrived that afternoon as usual, but his face was tight with frustration over the delays. When Michael told him the children were missing, Mr. Collins immediately halted his work, joining the frantic search. Neighbors were alerted, phones rang non-stop. The police were called, and soon, a search party was scouring every corner of the neighborhood. Witnesses later recounted seeing 3 small figures running toward the construction site just before the children vanished. Some said they saw the kids chasing each other into the half-built extension, while others claimed the triplets had wandered toward the nearby wooded area. The search extended for days, then weeks. Yet no trace of Aiden, Brooke, or Caleb was ever found. The police found no footprints leading away, no clues left behind, only the silence of the half-finished house. Emma and Michael's lives fractured under the weight of grief and unanswered questions. Their home, once filled with joy, became a haunting reminder of their loss. As the years passed, the case grew cold. The community whispered theories, abduction, accident, or worse, but nothing concrete emerged. The Harpers clung to hope, holding on to the faintest possibility their children might still be found. 11 years later, a simple renovation would uncover a secret long buried within the walls of their home, a secret that would reopen wounds and finally begin to unravel the mystery of the triplets' disappearance. The frantic search for the triplets consumed the neighborhood and the Harper family. Every corner of the small suburban development was combed over by police, volunteers, and distraught neighbors. Flyers with the children's faces, bright eyes, and smiling lips were plastered on street lamps, store windows, and utility poles. Each photo was a reminder of the innocence lost. Emma refused to leave the property, pacing the backyard where the children had last been seen. She clutched a worn teddy bear, Aiden's favorite toy, unable to let go. Michael spoke in quiet tones with officers, answering questions over and over again, as if repeating the same story could somehow rewind time. The police were thorough, but the evidence was frustratingly thin. There were no signs of forced entry, no ransom notes, and no suspicious vehicles reported in the vicinity. The half-built extension, where the children had been playing, was inspected repeatedly. Construction materials were moved, but nothing unusual was found. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts. Mrs. Lawson, who lived across the street, insisted she saw the children chasing each other toward the wooded area behind the development. "They were laughing, running fast," she said. "Then they just disappeared behind the trees." But no tracks or signs of passage were found in the woods, dense and thick with undergrowth. Another neighbor, Mr. Peterson, claimed he saw the children playing near the construction site just before he left for work. "I waved at them. They waved back," he told the police. "Then when I came back a few hours later, the place was empty. It was like they vanished." As days stretched into weeks, the initial frenzy of the search faded into a heavy silence. The community held vigils and prayed for the children's safe return, but hope grew thin. Emma and Michael's marriage began to fray under the weight of grief and guilt. Emma blamed herself for not watching the children more closely. Michael, feeling helpless, threw himself into work and later withdrew into silence. "Where are our babies?" Emma whispered one night, tears streaming down her face. "How could they just disappear like this?" The police pursued every lead, including interviews with Mr. Collins, the contractor overseeing the extension. Collins had a clean record, but was known for cutting corners to meet deadlines. Some neighbors expressed suspicion, wondering if his negligence had something to do with the children's disappearance. "I was working late that night," Collins insisted during questioning. "I never saw the kids go anywhere dangerous. I swear I checked the site before leaving." But when police examined the construction area, they found evidence of haphazard wiring and exposed insulation, potential hazards that could have endangered the children. A month after the disappearance, the police released a public statement. The case remained open, but had gone cold. There were no new leads, and the trail had all but vanished. Despite the bleak outlook, Emma refused to give up. She held on to the belief that the triplets were alive somewhere, waiting to be found. Every night she listened to a baby monitor. She kept tuned to the nursery frequency, hoping to catch the faintest sound of her children's voices. Michael, too, kept the nursery monitor close, a small thread connecting him to the past he desperately wanted to reclaim. The community tried to move on, but the missing triplets were never forgotten. Their empty beds, their silent toys, and the unfinished extension stood as grim reminders of a mystery no one could solve. Years passed. The house grew older, the construction site faded into the backyard, and the Harpers tried to rebuild their shattered lives. But the unanswered questions lingered, like shadows in every corner. Little did they know the answer had been hidden in plain sight all along, waiting quietly inside the walls of their home, locked away for over a decade. The Harper family's once lively backyard had transformed into a silent shrine, haunted not only by the absence of their triplets, but by the very walls that were supposed to protect their home. The half-built extension, once a place of hope and progress, now cast long shadows of suspicion and fear. Mr. Collins, the contractor overseeing the extension, became an unwilling focal point in the growing tension. To neighbors, he was a man under pressure, deadlines looming, corners being cut, and a reputation quietly unraveling. Some whispered that the contractor's hurried work had more to do with profit than safety. Rumors began circulating around the neighborhood. Some claimed they had heard raised voices near the construction site in the days leading up to the children's disappearance. Others suspected that Mr. Collins had been seen leaving the property late at night, long after the workday ended. Despite the whispers, the police had found no evidence tying Collins to any wrongdoing. He remained cooperative, yet distant, his eyes often avoiding direct contact during interviews. His alibi, that he had been working late but alone, was unchallenged, yet never fully believed. Inside the house, the atmosphere was thick with grief and suspicion. Emma found herself caught between anger and desperation. She confronted Mr. Collins once, her voice trembling but firm. "How could you let this happen? Were you even watching? Did you see my children at all?" Collins' response was guarded. "I was doing my job. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I'm just as devastated as you are." But his words felt hollow. The hurried construction site was littered with exposed wires, torn insulation, and piles of building materials. Dangerous conditions for anyone, especially toddlers. One evening, Michael decided to inspect the construction site himself. Flashlight in hand, he navigated the narrow spaces between the unfinished walls and scattered tools. Something didn't sit right. The insulation seemed deliberately torn in places, and there were fragments of small shoes hidden among the debris, shoes he recognized immediately as belonging to his children. Panic surged through him as he called Emma. "We need to look closer at that wall," he said urgently. "There's something there." As days passed, more neighbors came forward with strange observations. Mrs. Lawson confessed she had once seen a strange figure lurking near the house at night, someone unfamiliar to the community. "It was too late for work, too early for anything else," she said. "I never got a good look, but it made me uneasy." The police reopened some lines of inquiry, but found nothing concrete. Yet the unease lingered, a silent accusation hanging over the construction site. Inside the Harper home, the family's pain deepened. The mystery of the triplets' disappearance was no longer just about lost children. It had become a puzzle with missing pieces, each fragment more painful than the last. And then, buried beneath years of dust and silence, a small clue was waiting to be discovered, one that would change everything. 11 years had passed since that summer afternoon when Aiden, Brooke, and Caleb vanished without a trace. The Harper house had weathered countless seasons, the unfinished extension a fading scar on the property. The family had moved on in many ways, but the wound remained raw, etched into every corner of the home. In 2016, the Harpers finally decided to finish the extension. Emma and Michael wanted closure, a chance to reclaim their home and perhaps, archive what's in some way their past. They hired a new contractor, someone with a solid reputation and a promise to be thorough. As the renovation began, the house seemed to awaken from a long slumber. Walls that had stood silent for over a decade were torn down and rebuilt. Dust filled the air, mixing with memories that Emma couldn't escape. One afternoon, while removing a panel in the half-built extension, the renovation crew uncovered something unexpected: a porcelain doll. It was dusty, its delicate face cracked, but still hauntingly beautiful. The doll's glass eyes seemed almost alive, reflecting the harsh light of the worksite. Emma felt a chill as she reached out to pick it up. The doll was clutching something, an old baby monitor, still inexplicably powered on. The screen flickered faintly, tuned to a frequency Emma recognized instantly, the nursery channel she had kept on all those years. Inside the doll, wrapped carefully in torn insulation, were 3 tiny shoes. Each was tagged with a single letter, A, B, and C. The initials matched the triplets: Aiden, Brooke, Caleb. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The discovery sent shockwaves through the family. How had these items ended up inside the wall? Who had placed them there, and why? Michael immediately contacted the police, who returned to the Harper home to investigate. Specialists examined the baby monitor, confirming it was still functional and tuned to the exact frequency the Harpers had used for the triplets' nursery. It was as if the wall itself had been listening all these years. Detectives scoured the area around the extension. The torn insulation, the tiny shoes, and the porcelain doll seemed to form a hidden message, one that hinted at a dark secret buried within the construction site. Witnesses were re-interviewed. Some recalled seeing the triplets near the half-built extension the day they disappeared. The contractor who had worked on the original construction, Mr. Collins, was contacted again. Collins claimed he had no knowledge of the doll or the shoes, but his responses seemed rehearsed, guarded. Something about the discovery unsettled him deeply. The Harpers felt a mix of dread and hope. The wall's secret might finally be the key to unraveling the mystery that had tormented them for over a decade. As the investigation deepened, a chilling realization dawned. The children's disappearance was not a simple accident or an abduction. It was connected to the very foundation of the home they had trusted. The discovery inside the wall reignited a fire in the investigation that had long been dormant. The police intensified their efforts, combing through every detail related to the construction site, the contractor, and the day the triplets vanished. The tiny shoes, the porcelain doll, and the baby monitor, still quietly broadcasting, were more than just relics. They were breadcrumbs leading to a secret someone desperately wanted to keep hidden. Detective Laura Ramirez, assigned to the case, took the lead. She was meticulous, driven by the urgency to finally bring closure to a family shattered by loss. Examining the construction records, she found inconsistencies, reports missing, timelines that didn't add up, and unexplained gaps in Mr. Collins's documented work hours. Ramirez arranged a meeting with Collins. His demeanor was defensive from the start, eyes darting nervously as he tried to maintain his story. Under pressure, cracks began to show. "I never meant for anything to happen to those kids," Collins said, voice shaking. "The construction was rushed, yes, but I swear I didn't see them go near the dangerous parts." Ramirez pressed further. "We found the doll, the shoes, and the baby monitor hidden in the wall insulation. You were the only one with access to that site during the night before the disappearance. What are you hiding?" Collins broke down. The truth spilled out in fragments, a mix of negligence, panic, and guilt. He confessed that during a late-night inspection, he had seen the triplets playing near the half-built wall, dangerously close to exposed wiring and unstable scaffolding. Fearing they'd get hurt, he tried to chase them away, but the children ran deeper into the construction area. In a moment of recklessness, Collins admitted to sealing off part of the wall hastily to prevent the kids from wandering further, not realizing that something had gone terribly wrong behind it. "I didn't mean to trap them," he whispered. "I thought they'd come out, but they never did." The pieces began to fall into place. The torn insulation and tiny shoes hidden inside the wall were evidence of Collins's desperate attempt to cover his mistake. The baby monitor, left inside the doll, had been a silent witness, still tuned to the nursery frequency, as if waiting to reveal the truth. Authorities organized a thorough search behind the extension's walls and beneath the foundation. What they found was heartbreaking. Small belongings of the triplets, hidden away, suggesting they had been trapped or hurt near the construction site. Though the full fate of the triplets could never be conclusively determined, the confession and evidence exposed the tragic consequences of negligence and silence. For Emma and Michael Harper, the revelations were both devastating and oddly relieving. They finally understood what had happened to their children, even if justice could never fully erase the pain. The years of unbearable waiting, the endless questions, and the unbearable silence finally found a painful end. The truth, uncovered in the walls of the Harper home, had shattered the illusion that time might heal all wounds without answers. Instead, it brought a mixture of sorrow and clarity, an understanding of what happened to Aiden, Brooke, and Caleb. Emma sat quietly in the living room, clutching the porcelain doll discovered during the renovation. Its glass eyes seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions, but now they reflected a bittersweet closure. Michael joined her, and for the first time in years, they allowed themselves to grieve openly together. "Maybe now," Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face, "we can finally start to heal." The community, too, rallied around the Harpers. Neighbors who had once whispered in suspicion now offered support and solidarity. The tragedy had cast a long shadow, but it also reminded everyone of the fragility of life and the importance of vigilance. For Detective Ramirez, the case was a reminder of the human stories behind every file. "It's not just about finding answers," she said. "It's about helping families find peace." Mr. Collins faced legal consequences for his negligence, but the true punishment lay in the guilt that haunted him. His confession, though painful, ensured that the tragedy would not be forgotten or repeated. Emma and Michael slowly rebuilt their lives. They finished the home extension, not just as a physical space, but as a symbol of resilience and memory. In a quiet corner of the garden, they planted 3 trees, one for each child, a living tribute that would grow with the years. Though the triplets would never return, their story became a beacon, urging others to protect the innocent and to never let silence bury the truth. And as the sun set over the Harper home, its walls no longer held secrets, but stood as witnesses to a family's enduring love and unyielding hope.